Hey, so thank you for coming to the internal learning session this week. I don't know if you saw, but the process for accepting non-technical UMIPs, UMIPs to do with funding or to do with UMIPs Treasury, is now up on Medium. This was really just a session to take people through the process of doing it and highlight the key steps, which steps are optional, which steps are compulsory, and make sure that everyone knows that it's happening and where they should direct people to. I'm happy for people to jump in at questions with questions at any point. So, as you know, at the start of the year, Risk Labs transferred to 350k UMA from the Risk Labs Treasury to the UMA Treasury. This now offers decentralized control over the UMA, 35% of the UMA supply. So these are now under control of the UMA token holders. The purpose of this presentation is really to provide clarity over that process, to make sure that everyone understands that it's happening and how to go about it and what the process is. The process is detailed in the Medium article. I'd really encourage people to refer folk to the Medium article if they get inquiries about how do you apply to UMA for funding. That's the place to refer them to just now. It'll also, the primary content of that Medium article will also go up under the token holders section in our docs site. So this process is named non-technical UMIPs, but primarily it covers UMA Treasury transactions. It's likely that the first uses of these will be funding proposals. But it's also possible that we might see Treasury diversification proposals. So what it would cover is any action to move or transfer funds from the UMA Treasury. What it doesn't cover is any policy aspects that UMA might have, anything that is covered by Risk Labs funding, and also anything that is general and strategic that doesn't actually require an on-chain mechanism. So this is only about things that move funds on-chain from the UMA Treasury. Now, in order to move the funds from the Treasury, a bond to the value of 5,000 UMA needs to be put forward and an on-chain proposal for the required transaction might be written. UMA is permissionless. Anybody can put up the bond and write the proposal for a transaction to go through. But as it's a significant sum for the bond and it requires some technical skills to actually write the on-chain proposal, Risk Labs is prepared to front the bond and write the on-chain proposal for proposals that have passed through the recommended process that I'll take you through in a minute. We are anticipating a bit of interest in this. So far, we've had interest expressed from Polymarket Ecosystem. They've already had a proposal up in our discourse before this process was finalised. And I've been talking to them to say, give us a bit of time to do this, get a process together and then resubmit. So we're expecting that one imminently. We're also expecting one from the superhumans. We've got a few more that we think may possibly put through proposals like Polymarket and Possible Finance. FinStreet might also be interested in doing this. So there is a good chance that we will get quite a few proposals in a short amount of time. So just to introduce the process. Any questions, by the way? Cool. So the first stage is Discord. This is an optional stage. And there's now a dedicated channel in the UMIPs Discord server to provide visibility over the UMIPs that have been proposed. So people will be able to put up a one-sentence summary just to say, I'm making this proposal to fund this particular activity, and the people that will do it are these people, and therefore this amount should be transferred. So if they want to put together an improvement proposal that requires funding, they should first post a brief summary into that channel. That's purely a visibility statement. There's no voting. People can discuss it if they would like, but there's no gatekeeping at that stage. Stage 2 is discourse. So the next step is a formal proposal in the non-technical section of the UMIPs discourse. Now, I'm just going to take you to discourse to show you where that is. So in the UMIPs discourse, you might see something slightly different because I'm an admin in this, so I see a range of kind of locked and archive sections. But in the UMIPs protocol, there are two subcategories. One is technical UMIPs, which are the UMIPs that you're most familiar with. So you'll see a collection of these down the side, and also technical proposals. So that one's going to a vote, but it's still a proposal. These ones are still proposals. The relevant section is the non-technical UMIPs. And we would expect people to post these directly in themselves. There's no proposals being made at the minute. But if someone opens up a new topic, they end up with a very brief template of things that we would like them to cover in that proposals. So you've got the name of project, the person that's proposing it, a short summary of the proposal and a description of the project, the value that they think that this proposal will add to UMA, any deliverables that come of this, the budget requested, the team that will be working on it, and any additional information. So these are kind of adapted from GitHub Grants template to be more streamlined for our purposes. So the next step would be to put up a proposal in there. It should really detail the on-chain transactions that would be executed in the event of proposal support. And a poll can also be added at any time. And when a poll is added, it would be with a 7-day close to pass to snapshot. And we'll also discuss on the community call that day of that week within the 7-day window any non-technical proposals that come up. We'll take the technical proposals first, and we will probably set a time, depending on how many technical proposals we have, to move on towards non-technical proposals. Because obviously technical proposals and non-technical proposals take a different level of judgment. With technical proposals, you really generally want to make sure that everything is technically correct before it goes to an on-chain vote. And it's much more technically focused. There might be ethical considerations that you might have around a technical proposal. So for example, you know, if somebody wanted to put forward a price identifier for the number of fluffy kittens that they could behead in an hour because they wanted to produce a KPI option in that, then UMA token holders, there's an ethical issue in there of, do you really want to incentivize the killing of fluffy kittens? And UMA token holders might well reject that, but it would still go up as like a technical issue. Whereas with non-technical proposals, there's much more qualitative judgment involved in it. And so we will actually dedicate a specific section of the community call to non-technical proposals and the discussion of them. Part 3 is snapshot. We're still waiting on snapshot being fully rolled out. But in the event of a proposal on discourse receiving majority support, there's no quorum requirement, by the way. If it receives a majority support, we'll set up a vote on UMA's snapshot space, and this will have a 5-day window to be voted on. If that successfully passes with a quorum of 10% of the circulating supply, it will attract Risk Labs assistance, both in funding the proposal bond, so Risk Labs will put up the 5K in UMA needed to make a proposal, and it will also set up the on-chain proposal. So the actual transactions that are written in plain English, it will turn them into computer speak for the governor contract to execute. Those proposals may involve bridging, it may involve transfers. So you could actually imagine that a proposal suggested that UMA DAO provides another DAO with 10K USDC and Polygon, in which case we would be looking to set that up ourselves. But obviously they could also set up the on-chain proposal for the transfer. And they wouldn't have to go through this process to get there. And then the final stage is the on-chain vote. This is the only compulsory step, and nothing can be transferred without the UMA DAO without it. So once the proposal has successfully passed all 3 stages, Risk Labs can propose on chain in front of the required UMA bond. But because UMA is permissionless, you can skip all the above steps and propose on chain yourself. A successful on-chain vote will result in the requested funds moving directly from the governor contract to the wallets identified in the proposal. So this will happen as a result of the on-chain vote. So that's really the process that was there. Some of the things that I think it's worth talking about a little is what the distinction is between funding from Risk Labs and funding from the UMA DAO. So sometimes we get approaches from people and it's not very clear who exactly they're requesting support from, whether they're requesting support from Risk Labs, the foundation, or support from UMA DAO itself. This process gives a clear narrative of how you request funds from the UMA DAO. But obviously, sometimes, it might be more appropriate for Risk Labs to fund something. So, we need to take decisions there about where it's most appropriate to direct teams that want to attract funding from somewhere in the UMA ecosystem. In terms of involvement with proposals, I certainly am taking quite a hands-off role with the proposals. I think that's probably a good idea. I'm a little worried about us getting drawn into having to shape proposals or being encouraged to shape proposals in the expectation that our involvement would guarantee that they pass. And I just think that that's possibly an area that we want to avoid. Another thing might be the difference between a pitch and a proposal. So I don't know how often you look at the whole of UMA, but there is a fairly constant stream of companies pitching their products to UMA or to Risk Labs. And I think some of those might consider the proposals an appropriate place to go, in which case we kind of need to direct them towards the template to ensure that they are actually proposals that they're putting in, not just generalized pitches. In terms of communications, because this process has taken a few months since the funding was transferred, there's been some confusion about what you actually need to do in order to request funding from the UMA. This presentation and the Medium article is really designed to give clarity over that. And I'd really encourage people to refer folk to the Medium article as kind of the definitive version of what do I need to do to gain funding from the UMA. Just because, you know, we've had a lot of conversations and discussions around it. And also we have the superhumans who have also been telling people about it. And sometimes, you know, because the process has been in flux for the last couple of months, there's been a little miscommunication around what they actually need to do to obtain funds. So just so that everyone's on the same page, the Medium article is the place to go. And then my last one was really about the complex proposals. We don't know as yet what kind of proposals we're going to get. We're certainly anticipating a few funding proposals. However, I know that there are some members of the UMIDAO that are discussing treasury management approaches for diversification of the UMIDAO treasury. And it's possible that we may get in treasury management proposals. Those could potentially be quite complex with the transactions that need to take place there. So I just wanted to highlight that as something that might happen. So that was really just a run through of the process that we're planning to use for management of the UMIDAO treasury. Any questions?
Hey Vari, this was great and super awesome to see the UMA DAO kind of forming. So there's a channel in the Discord called UMA DAO, which is where these proposals would be.
No, it's not. Oops, hang on. I think I'm still presenting. Sorry. It's not called UMIDAO. It's called UMIP proposals.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It's
Awesome.
in the UMA Discord under the governance section called UMIP proposals.
Cool. And was the Medium article already posted?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it. But yeah, we should be loud about that.
And would the UMA be able to sign other kinds of transactions besides fund transfers? Where a simple example would be if you sent some funds to a sub DAO wallet that was then owned by the UMA DAO, and that DAO wallet does some stuff, but the UMA DAO ultimately has like control of some aspect of it, basically like managing other contracts or interacting with other contracts beyond just sending UMA tokens or other tokens around.
That would be good.
And it's just the governor, right?
Yes, it's just the governor contract. And
Okay.
at the moment, the only asset in there is UMA, to my knowledge.
if a project or someone, does a proposal that goes through all the steps we've defined, and say it's a more controversial proposal, would Risk Labs still propose the bond, even if maybe they don't 100% support it?
Yes, that's the commitment that we're making. If something went through all the steps, got majority support in the snapshot with the quorum, and then failed at the on-chain vote, Risk Labs would lose the bond.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Does the governor manage the store contract, and would this be the mechanism for doing like a buyback?
I think the governor should manage the store. I'm not sure if that's actually how it works right now today.
Okay.
I can double check.
I guess for like marketing value out of this, would it be useful to spread the word that there's this big DAO treasury to new DeFi protocols that are popping up or existing ones, where it might not be like, like, oh, let's swap some UMA for ETH or something, but somebody wants to have UMA tokens within their DeFi system and is proposing that the UMA DAO put some UMA tokens in there, where the point might not necessarily be diversification, but just sort of like getting UMA into other systems and building visibility that way.
It would be a possibility. I mean, I think that this could actually be used in a number of different ways. The most obvious use case is funding, for people actually requesting funding for the UMA DAO to do something. And that's certainly the first proposals that we would anticipate seeing. I think there are also other use cases that would also go through this process. And I guess we'll find out what use cases people come up with.
So if I had an idea for something to use the Oracle for, maybe I could request funds from the UMA DAO to build out like this separate project.
Yes.
Cool.
That's really all I had. Any other questions that people might have around the process, about anticipated proposals, around communications with people that might want to put in proposals?
What kind of volume, like based off the community members you've been interacting with so far, do you expect we're going to get in like the first little period? Like as soon as this goes live, do you think we're going to get like 5 requests for a lot of money, or I'm just like trying to gauge the expected use like right off the bat for this? Because I think it's awesome, and like supporting the ecosystem is like a really great thing. I'm just trying to reason about like how much like the treasury should be allocated and all of that, and like how quickly it's going to ramp up, because there's like obviously broader strategic decisions that like the entire UMA token holder base now needs to make about the allocation of these funds over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really important question. The system is live, and the process has been public since the day before yesterday. I know that the superhumans are currently putting together a pretty awesome proposal showcasing everything. Oh, goodness, Lana, what have you done?
It's like it's 30 Nicolas Cages in one amazing video background.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I know the superhumans are putting together pretty comprehensive proposal showcasing everything that they've done. That's going to be a relatively high amount. We've got the Polygon ecosystem that have a proposal lined up, ready to go, just waiting on our proposal processes. I know they're going to tweak it a bit in the light of some feedback they've had with the other protocols that they've approached. But yeah, so, you know, that one will go back in. I'm not expecting massive changes from the one that's already up there in Discourse. We had a pitch from Finn Street, and I would anticipate that they would put in a proposal for some educational materials to be produced for UMA. We had a pitch from Impossible Finance, looking at a front end. So again, I think that this is another place that may wish to put in a proposal that's perhaps a bit more developed than the original ones that they were chatting about. And also Polymarket are quite interested in liquidity incentives and having UMA support some liquidity incentives on Polygon. So they might also want to put in a funding request. There's a few others that people have kind of suggest, oh, I might put in a funding request. But those are the 5 that I think are likely to do it in the short to medium term.
That's super exciting. That's very cool. The more I think about this, like I know we've at one point there was like discussion of like a token swap type thing with some projects, which could be interesting. Also, like in the context of the future of fees, like there could be some system where like you need to lock up a percentage of the tokens. And this could also be like a good vehicle for distributing tokens for that, like where we can onboard some of our existing partners. And then they have to like commit to locking them up in some way to pay fees. Like, you know, if there's a staking mechanism for fees. Obviously, this is the goal here is like people liquidate these. But I also think like another meta point around this is like we really need to be on Aave for this, right? Or a lot of these projects are going to be selling these UMAs, which is not something we want. If they can borrow against them, then that could be a good vehicle where people can that are like aligned with the protocol and the ecosystem can keep their UMA exposure but still get liquidity. So it would be cool maybe if like we make sure that we're on Aave around like as soon as possible to facilitate that, or even offer some sort of like issued KPI or something where people can like borrow against their UMA without needing to sell it.
I think those are all important considerations. Also, I mean, you know, Risk Labs could also request funding from the UMA to facilitate some of these happening as well as other protocols.
%. Yeah, this is very cool.
Anyone else got any like gut reactions to this in terms of how they like? Do they like it? I like it. Well done, Barry. People like it.
Excellent.
This
I
is
guess
sweet.
we just wait
Thanks,
and see
Barry.
what comes in. Cool.
It's going to be exciting.
Excellent. So also, I mean, the discourse has not been terribly well used of late, but do keep a wee eye there because there are likely to be some interesting discussions around some of the proposals that we might receive in, particularly if we get a lot of pitches as well, which I think it's possible that some people may treat it as pitches rather than proposals. So just to make you aware that those discussions are ongoing in the discourse. Thanks to everyone for turning up.
Thanks, Rory.
Thanks, Rory.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vari.